The Vikings win at Soldier Field. Yeah, it was a little squirrelier than maybe it should have been, but really it got me thinking about momentum. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast.
You are Locked On Vikings, your daily Minnesota Vikings podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to the Locked On Vikings podcast, where we're always trying to learn something new. It's part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. And thank you so much for making Locked On Vikings your first listen of the day every single day. My hashtag everydayers. I appreciate you all so very much for sticking with me all throughout this crazy Vikings season, 9-2 now. Today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. You can start the season with a big return on FanDuel. New customers can place a $5 bet, and you get started with $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. Visit FanDuel.com to get started. And today, so the Vikings win in overtime, 30-27. It was not your average run-of-the-mill overtime game. The spark notes of the game that the Vikings controlled pretty thoroughly throughout, save an explosive here or there. Of course, the Bears had their moments, but the Vikings had a lot more moments and led 27-16 with 3 minutes to go as they kicked the field goal to go up by that score, to go up 11. Cue a long drive on the way down by the Bears, where they scored with about 20 seconds left, got the 2-point conversion to make it just a 3-point game, and then got an onside kick. We'll get into the details of all of this later. Got an onside kick, and then in 20 seconds, drove it down to field goal range, really in one big play. I'll let you guess what the play call was. But it's synonymous with knife. And they kick the field goal to go to overtime, win the toss, so the Bears get the ball first in overtime, but the Vikings steal themselves, force a quick 3-and-out, and then lead an absolutely steely icy drive to go all the way down to chip shot range and kick a field goal of their own to walk off 30-27. Win is a win is a win is a win, right? And that's what we're all talking about. And we'll get more into the idea of that collapse and stuff later. But this was a game that was so built on momentum. A lot of what I talked about in the crossover with Lauren Cox, like we talked a lot about, I think we talked a little more about the Bears than we did the Vikings, because the Bears are in such a fascinatingly frustrating spot that I was just kind of endeared by that. And you kind of saw all of that stuff come to fruition, really actualize. The Bears really lived and died on their momentum. And so I want to talk a little bit about momentum as a concept, as well as some other recaps and tidbits from the game that you may have missed. Of course, also go check out the postcast. The audio is on this audio feed, or if you prefer video, you can find the recap of the live stream under the live tab. I think there's like a past broadcasts tab you can find over on Locked On Minnesota Sports. But the idea of momentum was really at play in this one. And momentum is this weird thing. So defining momentum is really hard, right? Like if you were to do a study on momentum, on how impactful momentum is, or trying to measure momentum, like how would you determine momentum, right? And a few people have tried and they've all come up with really bad correlations. And the essential logic in a bunch of different ways to like measure this mathematically is the idea of good plays leading to more good plays. But once you adjust for how good the actual team is, you kind of get nothing. Essentially, that is to say that having a good play before doesn't make you any more likely to have a good play now than you otherwise would have been. So does that mean momentum is a fake thing that's in our little fifis and that's nothing? No, I don't think so at all. Everybody who's ever played, coached, everybody on a sideline ever says, no, momentum is real. You can feel it. Trust me, you can feel it. And I think that means that we have to rethink the way that we define momentum. We can't find the answer to what momentum is if we define it as, well, a good play then leads to another good play. Maybe that isn't what momentum is. And there are too many times where a good play happens and then a bad play happens after it that make it so that the correlation isn't good enough. But to me, I think momentum is a possession arrow. And I think I think of it like in a basketball game, right? Who has the possession arrow? And that arrow flips on a dime. You do not have to, if you build up a bunch of momentum, I don't think that you have to then see the other team do equal things to grind that momentum back down. that's just production. But I think like there are a lot of moments in this game that completely flip momentum and show you kind of how that works. So, for example, the Vikings are 7-7, and they punted or the kickoff after their first touchdown drive, which was this big explosive drive. It was awesome, right? And the Bears started to build momentum after that. They got this big long drive going that had all these explosives, and you could feel it in the body language of the players, right? Every time they would convert a first down, you had fist pumping, and it was like angry. It was cathartic, right? And you can feel what the Bears have been putting up with, all these heartbreaking losses, all this frustration with each other, with the coaches, with the media, with everything, just like melting away into this beautiful, beautiful touchdown drive, right? Or this scoring drive, because they were going directly down into scoring range. And then they throw up one on, I think, 3rd down and 4. Yeah, 3rd and 4. Beautiful back shoulder ball over Shaq Griffin to Keenan Allen. And Keenan Allen's toe is just 1 inch over the line, and they get the right angle on it, and they overturn the call. So you felt really good about it. And then they actually went, you could see Keenan Allen kind of give them the like, oh, we got to go fast signal. And they try to get up on the line, but the challenge flag is out. And the Vikings win the challenge. So it turns out that it's 4th and 4, and they're going to kick. And then on that kick, it's a blocked kick. Jerry Tillery gets his hand up, totally smokes Braxton Jones, walks him back too far, gets a hand up, blocks the kick. The momentum of that moment, right? Where the Bears built momentum over 6, 7, 8 plays, over an EPA like mass that probably is bigger than the mass of the overturned challenge. But that overturned challenge clearly shifted the vibe. And then the block kick shifted the vibe as well. The Vikings go down and score. They go up 14-7. But similarly, the entire texture of the game changed on that. And it didn't change back until the Bears got the possession arrow back, which happened on a 4th and 1 in the 4th quarter, where the Vikings were driving down into scoring range. They had a 4th and 1. It was a little too far to kick. It was a little bit too close to punts. Very no man's land, very no-brainer go. They didn't sneak. They didn't run. They didn't do any of that. They go empty and run like an empty concept, like a spacing concept, like a quick game kind of zone beater concept. And Darnold goes all the way through his progressions and doesn't like anything. Comes back to the latest one, which was TJ Hawkinson, throws it, broken up. Bears get the ball back. In particular, Kyler Gordon, I think was kind of the Bears' KJ Osborne in this comeback. You remember the 33-0 comeback, right? The role emotionally that KJ Osborne played in that, you could see it on the field. I think Kyler Gordon was doing that for the Bears in this one. He makes his play, he's fist pumping, he's going crazy. And then the Bears drive all the way down and have that score at the end. And then they get the onside kick and this crazy thing, and we're going to overtime. They will drive all the way down the field and score. It was 24-10. So they'll score and get the first of the 2 scores that they need to make this comeback here in the 4th quarter. They won't get the 2-point conversion. And I think the next drive is like the moment of the game for me. And it speaks to the kind of play we've been seeing for the last couple weeks out of Sam Darnold and the hold, the control that he has over this football team right now, where Darnold has to go out for a couple of plays because a foot injury he's been dealing with gets aggravated. The way I think it was Montez Sweat landed on him a little funny, and he has to go out for a couple of plays. Nick Mullins comes in. It is a 3rd and 12, if I recall. 3rd and 13. And Nick Mullins does a catch and run on a play that apparently they say afterwards was drawn up that day, but it's like an underneath catch and run essentially with like blockers, which is a fairly common 3rd and long thing to do, to Aaron Jones, who finds a way to convert. And then Mullins will also hand one off. Then Sam Darnold comes back in a way that like the lore of this is beautiful, where he's on the headset, right? Because Kevin O'Connell's coaching. You can't go over to the sideline and like sit down and have a conversation. He's got to still be calling plays. The offense is on the field. And so he's basically saying like, hey, do you feel better than like a 6 out of 10? And Sam Darnold, who can't respond, he can only hand gesture, thumbs up, because that's the way the headset works. He's like 8 out of 10. And it's like, yeah, thumbs up. And then he said, stop asking. I don't know if that was a hand gesture or whatever, but Sam Darnold essentially was like, yeah, I'm going in. It hurt me a little bit. I'm going back in. And he leads a steely, icy drive. It is ultimately an 11-play drive, 2 of which were Nick Mullins. So 9 of an 11-play drive for a field goal to go up 27-16. And that speaks to, I think, what we've got going on Sam Darnold. And I just want to gush about that for a little bit next. This episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by Hillsdale College. Hillsdale College is a Christian college in Michigan, but they have online courses that you can get at for free right now if you prefer to. You can find all sorts of topics, the kind of stuff you maybe would have found in like social studies in high school, as well as literature. Like there's a course on A Christmas Carol. There's a course on like Hamlet, some math and logic stuff, and whatever else you can find. It is a Christian college, so if you're going for the social study stuff, you're going to get that perspective. And if that's the kind of thing that you are into, you can go to hillsdale.edu to enroll. It's all online, and a lot of those courses are free, and they're set up to work exactly with your schedule, reading, tests, and all that stuff, but you can take it all at your own pace. Go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost, and it's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. Today's episode is also brought to you by PrizePicks, the best way out there to play daily fantasy football. PrizePicks has been my main thing all year long. I have been having so much fun on PrizePicks. I had a lineup for this game with TJ Hawkinson and Rome Odunze in it, and both those guys did not get going till late in the game, but then they both ended up hitting their more thans comfortably. And I'm going to be honest with you, at the end of the game, the final drive of regulation for the Bears, where they scored the touchdown that ultimately would be decisive, I thought the game was over, and I was actually kind of rooting for the Bears so I could get some Rome Odunze yards. I'm sorry, that's on me. But that's what PrizePicks has me doing sometimes. So if you want to get in on that kind of thing, you can go to the PrizePicks app and use code LOCKEDONNFL. Download that app, use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code LOCKEDONNFL at the PrizePicks app to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Moving on here with the Locked On Vikings podcast. What a game for Sam Darnold and the offense as a whole. Sam Darnold racks up 330 yards, 2 touchdowns, no picks, no turnovers. The only turnover the Vikings had was the Aaron Jones fumble at the beginning of the game. And as a result, the offense popped off. So part of that is, I think, the way the Bears played this, overcommitted to Justin Jefferson. And they hold Justin Jefferson to 2 catches for 27 yards. Everybody else goes off for 100. TJ Hawkinson, $114. Jordan Addison, what a game. 8 for 162. Jordan Addison, absolutely the focal point of the offense in this game. And I don't think that's like a game plan thing you come in deciding to do. I think that is a natural effect of what the Bears did. The Bears let Jordan Addison go off. They kind of declared, hey, if Jordan Addison can go off, can take advantage of opportunities, we'll lose that game, but we'll take Justin Jefferson out of it. They made that devil's bargain, and they lost to it, and they gave up the highest passing total of the season for Sam Darnold, and in a lot of ways, the best statistical game of Sam Darnold's season. And hey, Aaron Jones also went off for 100 yards rushing, plus 23 receiving, $129 from scrimmage total. Fantastic output for the offense. And that's Sam Darnold. I do think there were some moments where he still tried too hard to force it to Justin Jefferson. There was one into triple coverage that was kind of intercepty. Didn't get logged as a turnover-worthy play by like PFF or whatever that means to you, but still was like, maybe you could have progressed on that one. But I'd be if I sat and talked about that all day, I'd be nitpicking. Sam Darnold had a fantastic day. He was calm in the pocket. He was decisive. He hit all kinds of chunks. This is the platonic ideal game for Sam Darnold, right? This is the point of him, is this kind of game where he's hunting chunks all day long, just hunting big plays. And he found quite a few of them, including one at the end of the fourth quarter to TJ Hawkinson, and a very similar one in overtime to TJ Hawkinson, both of them setting up chip shot field goals that would turn out to be extraordinarily important. But that's going to be, I think, the thing that really sticks with you, like, especially when if we go look at the tape throughout the week, we're just going to be like, wow, there's like a lot of really good explosive plays on this tape. And the ones where he maybe held the ball a little bit too long and then had to like run around and scramble. But even in those situations, he did a good job of kind of putting a lid on the negative impacts, getting to his throwaways, or even scrambling for a couple, finding a check down, that kind of stuff. I thought he was really dialed in on this one. But really, I think it's a little bit less on the stat sheet, a little bit less on the actual results of the play. But I think the world of, go out and hurt your foot, come back in, icy drive, and the way that people are talking about how Sam Darnold was in that overtime drive. Very calm, very collected, right? And a lot of the beat reporters that have written this up made this point. Sam Darnold has seen some tough times in the NFL. I mean, he has seen some really brutal losses. He has seen worse than this. And I think that perspective was maybe really helpful. Where, let's just take this one play at a time, And for him, a gut punch loss, whatever. He's fine with. He's seen a million of those, right? So that prospect doesn't scare him. And instead, he can just take it one play at a time. And that's what they did on that drive, one play at a time on that last overtime drive to easily get down to field goal range, despite a couple of penalties putting them behind the chains early. 1st and 20, no problem. We'll just get it. We'll get 9 and then we'll get 11. 1st and 15, no problem. I got Justin Jefferson over the middle. We'll just convert that. Like, it's completely unfazed by all of that adversity. And I think he really led this team in a way that, he never gets credit for because he's surrounded by a lot of good players and they get their credit and that's fine. But Sam Darnold led this team in a way that he really should be getting a lot more flowers for than I think he will all week. And that's a shame. But the other kind of side of this is the way that they covered Justin Jefferson. The Bears, I think that they were either in 1-double-18, which is cover one man-to-man, but you double number 18. 1-double-18 or quarters man-matchy stuff that brackets Justin Jefferson and calling things to there. But they made sure that he was doubled basically every play. And that left everybody else one-on-one. That let a whole bunch of zone defenders get out of position all the time. That was not a sound way to play defense. Therefore, you get a $162 out of the other receiver, right? You get a $114 out of the tight end. You get a $129 out of the running back. I so very much hope that the Cardinals and the Seahawks and the Packers all look at that tape and go, wow, they shut down Justin Jefferson, and get stars in their eyes and go copy what the Bears did. God, please. I will take so many 30-yard Justin Jefferson games if it means we get 330 from Sam Darnold and a dub every time. It's fantastic. I love what the offense did in this one. Don't so much love what the defense did in this one, at least in 2 minute. It's actually very starkly kind of only in 2 minute. Let's sort of sort all that out next. Today's episode of Locked On Vikings is brought to you by FanDuel. NFL action all over the place right now. And if you want to get in on it with FanDuel, new customers can bet $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win. Plus, the FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. So next time the Vikings are up 2 scores and you're feeling a little weird about it, you can probably get the other team on a ridiculous line or a crazy money line or something. And if you want to go make that decision, all the tools you need to be informed are there. Live play-by-play, latest stats, all of that good stuff right there on the FanDuel app. It's the one place you need to be. So when you get a hunch in the middle of the game, go check out FanDuel.com or the FanDuel app. You can get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sportsbook partner of the NFL. Let's face the music about this. The Vikings had another kind of catastrophic defensive meltdown. And I don't want to give them as much flack as I did after, say, the Lions game, right? The Lions game, they give up 4 long touchdown drives in a row. That turns out to kind of be the defining thing of the game. It's terrible. The Rams game had a lot of really bad defensive meltdowns. And some games, I think maybe they get a lot of flack and they didn't really deserve it, right? Especially like the Packers game, right? Where it started to get situational on them. And really when the game was competitive, they kicked a whole bunch of ass. And when they didn't, it didn't matter. That wasn't the case here, right? But so situationally, the Vikings up 27-16 with 3 minutes to go. That is a situation where the Vikings have been a few times this year against the 49ers, against the Packers. And things have come down to an onside kick a lot. To my recollection, there have been 3 of them, right? The 49ers game came down to an onside kick, Packers game, and the Colts game. They all went, lined up and onside kicked, and the Vikings walked off pretty easily. So this would have been the fourth of those. That's insane. And I'm not forgetting one, right? I feel like somebody said there was 5. I don't know. That's insane. But being in a 2-score lead in the fourth quarter has been a pretty common scenario for the Vikings. That's a very good thing. That's kind of hard to just be in that scenario a lot in the first place. So good for you, right? But they've engineered these situations where they score to go up 2 scores. It essentially ices it. That's what they didn't have last time they were like this, right? Last time they were good like this in 2022 and they won all those cardiac games. Those final drives were actually decisive. These ones, it's 2 scores and then you have to go do that drive, right? So they've done a great job to get to those positions in the first place. And those positions have lights out win probability and all that. And I've talked about that quite a bit, but it never feels that way. The reason is kind of on display in this game, right? Even if you grant a whole bunch of improbable things, right? The second Bears touchdown drive of the day, which happens, then they had to get the 2-point. That happened, right? That's a 50-50 right there. That's cuts away half of all the universes in this game die right there, right? To get that 2-point conversion because now they need a touchdown in 20 seconds and that's a completely different game. Then they have to get the onside kick. That wipes away most of them. And then even after that onside kick, they have to get a big explosive play. That's no guarantee. They have to make the kick. Certainly no guarantee with the Bears especially, and the problems they've had with that unit. There was a block kick in this one too. And then after all of that, 50-50 chance to win because it's overtime now. After all of that, you just worked it back to a coin flip. And in fact, on the win probability models, a funny little quirk here is that the win probabilities only gave the Bears a favored chance to win the game when the Vikings had the ball in overtime. That's the only time. And the reason is, so the Bears immediately got pretty far behind the chains, right? Like 3rd and 26, the Vikings have the edge there because you're about to punt the ball to the Vikings. When the Vikings were in 1st and 20 after a holding penalty, or 1st and I think it was, or 2nd and like 17 or whatever it was, after a bad sack in overtime, and it looks like you're about to punt it back to the Bears, who just need a field goal now, then the win probability models will favor the Bears. That was the only time, right? Because everything else was, well, the Bears have a decent chance to get to overtime. I digress. The way that you want to play that defensively, the way you want to play that, short of just getting a sack, getting a stop, getting off the field, but you don't want to do anything that risks a quick score. And that drive, that long drive, took long enough to give the Vikings a really good chance, right? And I don't mean like a really good like long shot. I mean like a 99.9% chance to win the game. And I don't think anybody thinks of this game. I don't think a lot of people are like critiquing this situationally, but I do just want to like kind of make a little bookmark in your mind of how you felt when the Vikings kicked on 4th and 1 in the red zone to go up 27-16, right? Instead of just going for it. They were inside of 2 minutes at that point, and or I think it was like 2:10, and the Bears had used their timeouts already on the course of that drive. So a first down, and they would have been kneeling the game out up 27-6 or up 24-16, and that would have been the final score. But if you didn't get it, then the Bears would have the ball, only needing 1 score. They could have gone and tied it and brought you back to overtime, and you would have removed the need for an onside kick, which is your best weapon here. So by kicking, you preserve the need for an onside kick, and the need for an onside kick is the best thing you have to ensure your own chances of winning. Everything else can go catastrophically wrong, but they still got to get an onside kick, and that's really hard. Here's the thing. They got an onside kick, which was really hard. Johnny Munt was asked about this after the game, and he essentially said, look, like I played it the way I'm supposed to play it. So here's the way that onside kicks are usually defended, or that are usually received. You'll have a couple of people up front, would be Johnny Munt, maybe Josh Oliver if he were healthy. He's been dealing with an ankle, so he's out for at least this week, probably next week. I don't know. Kind of feels like a week-to-week deal with him. But whoever it is will basically go up to the wedge of Bears players and just try to knock as many of them out as possible so that the Vikings have a numbers game on the recovery. The Vikings also get a head start on the recovery. The ball needs to go 10 yards, but for it to go, the ball goes 10 yards faster than the players go 10 yards, and the Vikings can already be standing there, so they get a head start on the recovery and basically just have to fall on the ball. That's why onside kicks are basically impossible. So the Bears basically just like boink it 5 yards, and the ball's sitting there spinning, and you just kind of hope it bounces off some ankles, off of the right ankles, and then you can go recover it before it has gone the requisite 10 yards, which is what happened. So for Johnny Munt, you just have to have ball awareness, right? And he says, yeah, if I could go back and do it again, I probably would have just gone and fallen on the ball right there. But he wasn't expecting the ball to be there at all. He was expecting that thing to either be over his head or past him or to go 10. He's standing 5 yards. If the ball is at him, you kind of already won. And he just has to not be hit by the ball. So there's a bit of an element of luck there. But Munt did what he was supposed to do there. The mistake is awareness. I think you just kind of, if you're on an onside kick, you just have to know where the ball is, see it, right? You just have to have the corner of your eye on it so you know that it's coming, and you can at the very least get the hell out of there. But regardless, the Bears recovered the onside kick. And so I guess I leave you with this. Defensively, the Vikings were pretty dominant. I think up front, they were incredibly dominant, especially against the run game. With the DeAndre Swift run game was held very much in check, did not have the explosives it was supposed to have. 13 carries for 30 yards total. Caleb Williams was the leading rusher on the Bears. I think that was, somebody tried to make that a bold prediction. That wasn't bold, man. But Caleb Williams had a 342 touchdown day of his own. And he definitely had some of his moments. A lot of them came in these final 2-minute meltdowns. So here's what I'm going to say about the defense. You have to figure out your 2-minute thing. These teams have gotten way too good against you in 2 minutes. Now, when you're in the, they've got 2 minutes to score and we're up 2 scores thing, and you're basically just kind of letting them move the ball, that I forgive because that's strategic, right? You don't care if they move the ball. You don't even care if they score. You just need it to take most of the time. And that took them all the way down to 20 seconds to score defensively. In a weird way, I kind of call that a success because of the way the Vikings play. That you tackled them in bounds a lot, you made them scramble a lot, you made them use a lot of play. They didn't get 50 of it in one go, right? You made them use enough plays where they almost ran out of time. And essentially, like if DJ Moore drops that dagger play at the on the next drive, on the field goal drive at the end, like if that play is not completed, the Bears basically are done. Like it had to be on one play. You made it hard. And how difficult you made it for the offense to do what it did is often the barometer by which we measure defense, not necessarily whether the offense was successful or not. Because as the defense, you don't get to drop it for them, right? Like you don't get to throw it for them. The offense gets paid to, they do their thing. All you can do is make it hard. But in 2-minute situations at the end of the half, they give up a horrible field goal drive. This has happened a lot this year. 2 minutes, a problem, a big problem. And you got to, I think, reimagine the way you go out after 2 minutes at the end of the half and at the end of games. The defense, otherwise on the whole, still I think leads the league in EPA per play. Like it's still a very, very good defense in the kind of normal situations, but situational defense is a big problem. I am going to be going a lot deeper into this defense the next week or two in an attempt to kind of lay the whole thing out for you so that we can get a really true and deep understanding. So stay tuned for that. But in the meantime, tomorrow is going to be Mailbag Twitter Tuesday. So get me your questions via Twitter or Blue Sky. I'm Luke Braun NFL on both of those. You can also get me at the Google form, which is linked in the show notes to any podcast episode, or at lockedonvikingspodcast@gmail.com. You can find me there. You can send me an email there whenever you want. I will see you all tomorrow. And as always, Skol.